I know.
right? You know, it's
I
like your
know.
own. It's even your
Well,
own fruit.
Sean, I'm getting nuggets of
Yeah, yeah.
juicy info, so
Let's do it.
I don't want to lose it because you know what? We're gonna lose that. All right. Hi, John Hawkins here with Employees Club of California, and this is another edition of People We See. I'm here with Shawn. Shawn, thank you for taking the time out.
Thank you.
And absolutely, my pleasure, my honor, actually. So I'm just going to start with some questions, and it will lead to your story. So first of all, Shawn, how do you spell Shawn?
SHAWN.
Okay, just like it sounds. The normal way.
Yes, the normal
not,
way.
not
Not
S-E,
seen.
yeah, seen. And what's your last name?
Dworkin. So it's DWORKIN.
Dworkin. Okay. And how old are you?
I am 34.
34. You're exactly 10 years younger than me. No, 20 years younger than me. 44, 54. Holy mackerel. Okay. And where were you born?
I was born on Long Island, New York,
Okay.
in West Islip. That's the town where I was born.
Okay.
And then my parents moved to Florida about a year later, and we moved to the Tampa Bay area.
Okay. And is Tampa Bay area, is that where you grew up?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so tell me, starting around, let's say, high school. Where'd you go to high school?
Went to a high school called J.W. Mitchell High School.
Okay.
And that was about maybe 20 minutes from where I lived, and I would take the bus there.
Okay. All right. Never rode your bike too far?
No, too far, way too far.
Did you get your car, though, by the time you were a senior so you could drive? Or?
When I was about 19, like
okay.
right when I was about to graduate high school. I'm actually a cancer survivor on the last year of high school. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Holy mackerel. Yeah. Did that impact your high school education, or, I mean, how did that impact your life at that point?
It made me more empathetic because I knew, that, a lot of people go through cancer, but I didn't know what it meant to go through cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It also changed my perspective on what I wanted to do after high school because I was in the NJROTC program. I was going to go into the Navy.
Ah, fantastic. Okay. Well.
And so that changed my perspective on war.
Okay.
Because I had a stronger value for life after that,
So the ROTC was gone. I'm not going to do that at that point.
Right. Okay. I decided that. I got the cancer on the 2 months before I graduated, and the way I found out was I had a really bad cough that just kept getting worse and kept getting worse. So I went to the primary doctor, and he put me on antibiotics. I went through all the antibiotics and still had the bad cough, just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
And so my parents finally said, you might have bronchitis or something. Mm-hmm. Let's go to a walk-in clinic. Yeah. So we went to a walk-in clinic, and they felt my lymph nodes, and they said, are you aware that you have a massive lump in your neck? And so they said, you need to go back to your primary, and you need to get a CAT scan and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and my primary doctor said that you need to get a biopsy done to find out exactly what kind it is. And then that's like here. You can see I have a scar, of a scar.
Right.
That's where the biopsy was taken.
Okay.
And it determined it was Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 2B. They found out that it was the stage that it was in by doing another scan called a PET scan. And that's where I believe, that's the one where they put radiation into a small portion of radiation and it lights up the X-ray.
Oh, right.
And so then they said, we'll have to check to see if we can go in through your veins because the chemo drug is powerful. A lot of people don't know what chemo is, and it's a concoction of several different kinds of potent chemicals. And it comes through an intravenous, and you sit in a chair with it going into your body for For my case, it was 4 hours, and I would do that every other Thursday. And it gradually kills the cancer, but it also kills you at the same time,
Right.
and it's like Russian roulette.
It's like poison, really.
Right, it's poison. It's straight up poison. Yeah. So I did 6 months of chemo, and I did 3 weeks of radiation, and then I nearly passed away during that. And but they said the scan was clear, and from that point, I had to decide what do I want to do with my life. And so I was getting better at music. My original passion was marine biology. I wanted to be a marine biologist. But my grades weren't high enough, and I had a marine science teacher who used to be a marine biologist, and he said that he depended on government grants in order to keep his career going.
Yeah.
And so he decided to become a teacher instead. And so I decided to shift focus. I was listening to a lot of metal music at the time because I was teased and bullied. Not a lot so much in high school, more so middle school. ROTC helped with that when I was in high school because it was like a band of brothers and sisters.
Right.
I liked the camaraderie in it, and that part of the military part I did enjoy. So I decided to shift focus then and pursue music because I was taking guitar lessons from like when I was about 12 years old, and I kept getting better and better and better, and I started coming up with my own compositions. And so my parents said, well, or actually my mom said, you should go back to college, because I had gone to a technical trade school, but it kind of turned out to be a what was supposed to be an accredited trade school for because I didn't know what to go for, and I figured computers, so I wanted to go for web design. But long story short, I did that for 2 years. I had to pay off the loan, but it turned out to be kind of a fraudulent school in a way, and non-accredited, and so I wasn't able to find a job after. I had to do the paper, but I did not have the knowledge to go with the paper.
Were you able to finish high school and graduate?
Yes.
Oh, you were, even with the cancer?
Yeah, I got what was called a special diploma, or actually no, I got a regular diploma. That's what I got, a regular diploma, but I got a waiver, which prevented me from having to get what was considered a special diploma, because I was in the ESE classes, like so for people who have learning disabilities, not necessarily to the level of retardation. It's just like you could have ADD.
Yeah, or dyslexia, or
right.
Yeah.
And so I was able to get a waiver that allowed me, that was passed by the state, like right around that time, that allowed me to get a regular diploma. So that was good. Yeah. That I was able to get that.
So the trade school. So after the trade school, that was when you pursued then the music, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's when.
And mainly guitar, electric guitar.
Yeah, electric guitar. I want to compose music for film, and that's always been my main thing. Because I was in a module when I was in high school, in technology class, and they had a module for that type of career that you could go into, and I thought it was so cool because they had a video of somebody composing music to the movie Driving Miss Daisy. And that's when I was like, that's pretty awesome that you can actually that's how you can put music to film.
Was he doing it while he was watching the movie, kind of thing?
Yeah.
I've seen that before, and that is fascinating. You're like, wow, that's how they do it?
Yeah. And also my technology teacher, Mr. Whitaker, he introduced me to a guitar player that like I love now. His name's Joe Satriani, and he's a guitar virtuoso, and so that just made me go deeper into the music. My uncle introduced me to my favorite band though when I was younger, which is the band Yes, a progressive rock band.
You still like them?
Oh yeah, they're still my favorite band. they took the musicianship to the highest level it could go, and that's what I like.
They're one of the greats, of course. Yeah.
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 And so I was like, yeah, why not? And I just kept hearing constantly, there's competition in the music field. And I'm like, if somebody likes your music and if they like what you do, it doesn't matter if there's competition, because if you're right for their project, you're right for their project. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing it, but you can say that about a lot of things. But if they like what you do more than what the other people are, and you're at the right place at the right time, then... Right. So, and you can't let that get to you, you can't let that type of thing bother you. You got one life to live. You might as well go for your dream.
Exactly. And you never know where that could lead to something else or another field in music, but you have to start somewhere.
Right.
So you did that. And then, so how were you so you must have been like in your mid-20s or early?
Yep, early 20s. Okay. I stayed in college, so it was about maybe 26 or so. But I didn't like the college system where everybody's kind of burning themselves out trying to get letter grades rather than
learn.
Like a whole well-rounded.
Exactly.
Education.
I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
Yeah, and so I was like, I'm thinking, I wonder if I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I've got the ideas and everything like that. And so I talked to one of my math tutors, and I'm like, what do you think? Like, what's your take on this? I said, I let him listen to some of the music demos I had, and he's like, that's really good, And all my teachers were telling me, you got something.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I think I'm going to just pursue it. And so that's what I did. That's when I decided to just start. I actually enjoyed it because I would learn things in my music theory class, but I wasn't able to apply them. I was like, because with my ADD mindset too, and I don't think this is just limited to ADD people. It's like, I think of the school system, right? I think about kids in a school system, and you have a kid that's a kid. A kid wants to go out and play. How do you expect a little kid that's got all this energy to be put under fluorescent lights, be told to sit still,
right,
while they're being fed cookies and soda, right, in the class already?
And it's cinnamon rolls with icing.
Right. It's like, and then the kids are told, no, you can't have that later on. There's too much sugar in that. It's like, but you just gave it to them in class.
Right.
And then you're wondering why they can't focus, and all of a sudden they're on ADD medication.
Were you ever on any of those, Adderall or?
Yeah, I was on Ritalin when I was younger.
Yeah.
I hated how I felt on it. My
Really?
parents said you would just zone out all the time, and I do think it helped me focus, but if it's at the cost of my health and not feeling well on it, then I'll take me being able to be creatively expressive. That's the type of schooling I wish I could have had.
Yeah.
The school was good in the sense that it encouraged me and all the other kids to go for our dreams and made it fun, but I think that more kids need it where they can express themselves. It's hard to find a place where you can express yourself anymore.
So, this is still in Florida,
right?
And your parents are supporting you. They're supporting you emotionally, and I mean, so everything is you're being able to do what you want to do.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So then at that point, I started working on my compositions like all the time at home, and I loved it because, I didn't have to hand in this little trinket of something I composed to get graded, and then after it's handed in to the teacher, I don't see it anymore. Whereas I can go full on down the rabbit hole and really start working on these things. So from that point, I started taking it more seriously.
Yeah. So up into your 30s, how was the music developing in terms of your life? Well, because you said you're 34. So this wasn't that long ago. I keep thinking of my age, and it's like the 20s is a billion years ago.
Yeah.
So this is recent.
Yeah.
So Well, let me then. It might help me kind of gauge the conversation a little. When did you move? Why don't you tell me how you got to California?
Okay.
Do that, and then.
Well, the sole reason I came out here was because I had uh, a band back in Florida. We were rehearsing. We played. We actually only got to the point where because of people's schedules, things like that, where we played one gig at an open mic, and we played 5 songs.
What was the name of your band?
Minions of the Wind.
Who came up with that name?
That was my bandmate Steve, and he's the one that came out here before me. And because there were no real connections, we were looking for maybe record labels or just more people willing to go all the way. We were the two of us wrote the two of us wrote pretty much all the songs. He wrote 2 of them completely himself, but the rest of the 8 of them we collaborated on. And then we would bring it to practice. We'd have our drummer, and we'd have our second guitarist, and we'd rehearse the songs. And
so he was the lead singer.
Correct.
So he came out here to LA specifically for the music.
A year before me and his band. And he came out because he knew the connections were out here, and so he wanted to go where and he was willing to do what it took to get there.
Right.
So he came out here last June, and his story's another full story, but ultimately he got a job as a telemarketer 6 days a week.
Okay.
And he managed to save up $12,000 in the course of that year, pretty much, or a little bit less than a year actually, from not having to pay rent, living in his van.
Right.
You know, and so and working 6 days a week.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so by the time I got here, because he convinced me to come out because he says the pay is better too.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing in Florida for work before you?
I was working as a custodian at an elementary school.
Okay. All
and that was paying like around $8 an hour.
Yeah.
And I was working full time, and I still couldn't move out making $8 an hour. And
Nope.
So it's like you start to get to a point when you're 33 at the time, and you're still living at home.
Yeah.
And you can't find any job that's willing to give you full time. And it gets to be very frustrating.
Right.
One point, I'm going to divert a little bit.
Sure.
So I went to a commune out in Hawaii, a work trade. And the way that happened was, and I'll have to go back a little bit further too, because a big part of who I am and what I do now is I'm vegan, and I've been vegan now for 6 years. And the way
vegan, like 100% vegan, not vegetarian. Vegan.
Not vegetarian. No animal products, no milk, no dairy, no eggs, no fish, nothing. I eat plants, everything, and so I've been doing that now for 6 years. And the way that happened was, I used to be 230 pounds when I was in college, and I went to my guitar teacher, and one day I was telling him I don't like how I feel on Adderall, and I don't like it helps me focus, but I don't like how I feel.
Yeah.
And so he said, well, there's things that he's seen on his, looking it up about people having kidney failure from the drug. You see the commercials and everything, and side effects may include, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was getting those side effects. I was getting like where I was loss of appetite, but in my case, even with me being pig, that's not a good thing to just not eat.
Right.
So he said, why don't you look into vitamin supplements instead? And I said, that's just more pills. I don't want to take more pills. But he's like, well, it's better than what you're doing right now. So he said, well, I know a vitamin shop down the block. Why don't you go talk to them after school? You know. And so I was like, okay. So I went to my next class, which was music theory. And I was telling my friend about what he had said. And he said, you should check out this documentary called The Beautiful Truth. And it talks about how plants are medicine and how that is what we're primarily supposed to be eating. And my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 uterus cancer at the time.
Oh, man.
And so I told him about that as well. And I think that's also a reason why he brought up the documentary. So that night I went home and I started looking up, I looked up that documentary he was talking about, and I started seeing how people could actually cure themselves of these diseases, of cancer, of diabetes, of heart disease, from eating plants.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, this is new information. I've never seen this before. So I saw a related documentary called Forks Over Knives on Netflix. And that talks about, it's the largest health study ever conducted. It's a 15-year study. And it's where it's a correlation study. So the correlation is, in China, it's the China study. And so in China, you have your rich population, you have your poor population. And the rich population had the highest level of disease because they were able to afford eating the animal products. But in the poorer parts of the country, they might have a piece of fish like that big and split it between their whole family.
Right.
But primarily they were eating root vegetables and, rice and seaweed, and they were eating plants.
Smaller portions, but plants in particular.
And that would be the majority of what they were eating was carbohydrates.
Less processed.
Yeah. Yeah, not processed at all, because they're growing it themselves and everything like that. So in essence, they had the better health. They didn't have the higher rates of disease. So they started doing more studies, and they found out that animal protein was also linked to triggering dormant cancer cells, where it could turn, depending on how much animal protein was added to a petri dish, it could either make the cancer cells active or turn them off. And so I was like, okay, so we don't need to eat animals to survive. I was working at a deli at the time, at a grocery store called Publix.
And, in Florida.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all over. Yeah.
And I was thinking while I was walking into work, I was like, nobody's ever shown me how these animals actually die, at all. Like never. But you go to a petting zoo when you're younger.
Right.
But then we're gonna go to McDonald's after. I thought that's kind of weird. And like even my mom and I, we'd go. There'd be a cow field right by our house at the time, and we'd go visit the cows, and then we'd go home and be eating hamburger helper
and not making the connection.
Yeah, and like one of the best things we loved to do was to go feed the ducks, by the pond, and go hang out with the cows. And here we love these animals. And then I wanted to be a marine biologist, and I was going out snorkeling out on the islands when I went out on my uncle's small boat. And I was, I'd be like, this is amazing. I'm seeing all these beautiful fish.
Right.
And everything, and then I'd go out on my uncle's boat again, and we'd go fishing.
Right.
And we'd be killing the very thing that I enjoyed, or the very individuals, I should say, that I enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
In their natural habitat. Natural can be very, a skewed term too, because everything that is built around us, as the singer of my favorite band, Yes, would say, everything that is above the ground used to be in the ground. Whether it's plastic, it used to be oil. Steel, it used to be in the ground. Everything used to be
You're
ground.
right. Yeah.
But we've changed the image to be in the image of a human industrialized version, but instead of the actual Earth's image.
Yeah.
To where it used to be when we had everything we needed. So fast forwarding then, um, I went home and I saw a documentary called Meet Your Meat, and that showed what was happening to the animals themselves and the conditions that they were in. But it's not even just the conditions, it's knowing the fact that these animals are being killed when we don't need to eat them to survive. So what's up with that?
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was kind of weird. And you know, I saw horrible things. I saw, you know, pigs being boiled alive. I saw people setting animals on fire in some instances by slaughterhouse workers and doing horrible things. And this is not an isolated thing. These factories, you can look them up. They're called factory farms, and they're all over the world. And they're elongated white buildings that look like concentration camps. And all the animals are crammed together in a space where they can't even move around, and they're standing in their own waste.
Yeah.
So right there and then, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I didn't know how to take it. You know, I just started throwing away the animal products in the house. My parents are like, "What are you doing?" You know, and I said, "You got to see this information." So I went vegan right there and then, and I was on Facebook at the time, and I started looking up more information on it, and I came across the plant-based doctors and talking about how, especially Dr. John McDougall, who talks about how every single civilization around the world is starch-based, and it's true because you have in Asia you have rice, in South America you have the sweet potato, in Central America you have corn or maize, North America you have corn again, and in the Mediterranean you have the breadbasket, which is wheat and all that. So every single civilization has been built off of starches, and even the gladiators themselves were known as the barley men, and they ate mostly barley.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've even seen it where they were vegan at the time.
Wow.
Preparing for battle because they felt better on the carbohydrates, on the starches, and it made them stronger. And there's a new documentary coming out on September 16th called Game Changers, and it's all plant-based athletes, people breaking records right now.
Really?
Patrick Baboumian, he's a world strongman, and he can deadlift 800 pounds.
Jeez.
So, and he's done that all on plants. He's been vegan for, I think, I don't know. He's been vegan for a long time now.
I saw a documentary, and I only saw half of it, and that's all it took. It was What the Health.
Yeah.
And half of it, I still haven't finished it. But then and there, I'm like, I don't need it. I'm not eating meat anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not vegan.
Yeah.
You know, baby steps. But yeah, I don't need it. I love the Impossible Burger and the what's the other one?
The Beyond
Meat. Yeah, Beyond Burger.
Yeah.
But anyway, so your bandmate came out. You turned vegan in Florida. You're still in Florida.
Yeah, this was and then I mean at the time when I came over here, I've been here now for about 7-8 months.
Okay.
Something like that.
So you're still fresh to California.
Yeah.
And it was the first time you'd ever been here.
Yeah.
And you came straight to LA.
I mean, I stayed with my aunt and uncle in Arizona.
But I mean, you basically your first main stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is LA, and you've been here since in the Valley.
Yes.
Is your bandmate, was he in the Valley?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where you thought, okay, there's some familiarity to this area.
Right.
Because LA is huge. I mean, you could end up anywhere.
But he was busy when I got here, working 6 days a week, and so
you're on your own.
Pretty much on my own. I didn't know anybody when I got here.
Yeah.
And so I was in an animal activist group back in Florida called Direct Action Everywhere, and the one of the chapter heads for my area, he moved out to Berkeley, and to be in the head of like the activism community or the hub. And so I contacted him because I'm like, okay, I don't know anybody out here. I need a foundation So I contacted him to see if I could get in touch with the other activists in the area. So I reached out to him, and he put me in contact with the other activists in the area, and I thought that's a good starting point. And I started applying towards jobs as soon as I got here.
Yeah.
I started applying towards Follow Your Heart, which is
right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nearly vegan
West
cafe.
Valley. Right.
Yeah, and I applied towards to be a dishwasher, and that didn't work out. So, and I looked for jobs for a while after that. I kept my van on this side street that my bandmate and friend told me where he was staying, where there was other people living in their vehicles as well.
Yeah.
And
so go back. So you're in Florida. You're about to embark on this journey, right?
Yeah.
What did you have the van already, or did you buy a van just for this purpose?
I bought the van just for that purpose. I sold my car, which was a Hyundai Sonata 2009 at the time, but it was kind of
ready to go.
It was ready to go. So I traded it in, and I got about like $2,500 for it.
Okay.
And to put towards a van that costs about around $10,000. I'm making payments on it.
Okay.
And
that's the van over there, and we can't see it, but it's a white construction type van.
Right. It's a
Did you pick that in
Express.
for thinking, okay, this is gonna be the best thing because I'm probably gonna be living in this for a
Yeah,
while?
I wanted it to be the most practical, and I thought that it has enough room, and I wanted it. I chose. I went through numerous reviews to see what type of van would be best, and I know Chevys. I was between a Ford and a Chevy. I saw other people had done van life before, and most people would usually go with like a Ford Transit because it's a little bit more. I would say it's got a taller roof and stuff like that.
Front wheel drive.
Yeah.
Right? So you got more room in the back, or?
Yeah, and so I knew I wanted to have a lot of room because I had to bring my music equipment with me.
Okay.
And everything like
Which
that.
Which is a guitar, amp.
Yep, guitar, amp, cables, and stuff like that. And then my mom let me use we had a steel mattress frame, a light steel mattress frame in our guest room, and she let me put that in the back of the van.
Okay.
So that's what I slept on. I put sleeping bag on the top of it. And I was already, though, going minimalist. I was already sleeping on the floor by choice in my house because I felt it felt better on my back. And because it was firmer, and the springs would always mess with my back usually. And so I had already started getting rid of, I had a rule of thumb, and that rule of thumb was if I haven't used it within a year, I'm getting rid of it.
Right.
And that's a good rule of thumb because, I've seen a lot of people who have a lot of stuff they still don't use at all.
Right.
We're consumers. We're considered consumers.
I agree.
And I think I take that very offensively that we're considered just consumers. I mean, like, how does that make one feel?
Not users, just consumers.
Yeah.
And we don't even use what we consume.
But
Yeah. So you're a minimalist, but you also use the term van life.
Right.
So that's kind of I mean, if you had to explain it, that's what you're doing. It's van life.
Yeah.
And to be that, you have to be a minimalist unless you have a storage somewhere.
Oh, you definitely have to be a minimalist. You have to be okay with living with less,
Yeah.
But it also is a reward because, less is more, as they say, because you don't have as much responsibilities to worry about. So you have more peace of mind, and you have to use what you have to utilize that, But I thought about it as, people go on cross-country road trips all the time and they think nothing of it, but I'm just doing it full-time, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's the way I think of
Right.
it. It's all about perspective.
Is it different? So when you're in Florida, your parents, they know what you're doing. Were they cool with everything?
Yeah, when I did the, so real quick kind of rewinding back just a tad.
That's okay.
With the when I went to Hawaii to do the work trade.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I got to the point where I started seeing all these obstructions in society, and I saw how you're really pretty much tied to a house. You know what I mean? Like you have your bedroom, and then outside that, like you can't really go very far if you're tied to a house. And I believe that people are just like every other animal. We want to migrate. And like, where do we go on vacation? We go to places. We go to like tropical places. We go to nature places. There's a reason for that. And the reason is because we like to explore. But you're tied to a house. You're tied to a grid, and you don't. But you become so comfortable with it because they got you on the boob tube, you know, that you've been sucking on the nipple for since you were a kid, and all you know is movie quotes, and that's what you're basically.
And the couch, and the big screen, yeah.
Right, and everything that you know has been based around everything that's come out of that box.
Yeah.
You've never had any outside perspectives. I mean, I see all the time people learning about even fruits and vegetables. They're like, I've never heard of this fruits and vegetable. What is this? Yeah. And it's like, well, they grow it in many other countries, but you've just never been exposed to it because you've just been told this is what you eat.
Right.
This is where you live. This is what you do. You graduate high school, you go to college, you have a family, you work a really, really hard job until you get really, really old, and then maybe you can retire and go to a place like Hawaii.
Or get a van and tour the country.
Right, or you could do it now. Why are you... And then I was told by all the older people, it's like, oh, yeah, work hard now, play later. I'm like, why would I want to do that when I can't even enjoy it when I'm old? So I'm thinking, all right, I know that there was the communes back in the 60s, you know, and I'm like, I wonder if there's a vegan one. And so I was on a walk one day, walking through my industrialized grid neighborhood, you know, where nobody comes out because everybody's inside. It's not like the 90s anymore. Nobody's outside just hanging out anymore. Everybody's watching their Netflix series and stuff, and nobody interacts with each other. And like I kind of want to go explore now. I'm 30 something years old. I need to see more of the world. I've only pretty much seen Florida and places I've gone to with my parents.
Yeah.
And so I thought, all right, well, I had exposure to work trades a little bit because I looked up organic farms one day, and I found this one called Life Glow in Hudson, Florida. And I went to go volunteer there one day, and there were people that were there through a program called Woofing. It's WWWOOF. I forget what the acronym stands for completely, but it's all organic farms, and basically you can go anywhere in the world, volunteer at an organic farm, and most of the time they will, the host will feed you, and you get to stay there in return, you know, for some light landscaping,
right,
and helping out.
Yeah.
And so I had a blast there. You know, I got to, you know, put seeds in the seed trays and then feed the animals, and you know, just help with the compost and everything. It just learn about different plants and growing. And then at the end, they would all come together and hang out and usually watch a movie or something like that. But it was cool. Yeah, and then they sent me home with some veggies to take home with me. But I met some. There was this girl there, and she told me that she had come all the way from Detroit, and she took a Greyhound bus, and she had been there, I think, for years.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And because you come out of high school, you don't have any payments to make or anything like that. You know what I mean? You're not
tied.
You're not tied yet.
Yeah.
You know, so
exactly.
Right. So and the host, if the host likes you, they will let you
stay as long as you want.
Stay as long as you want. So I looked up vegan communes, and I said, I'm gonna go to the first one that pops up.
It was Hawaii.
And it was Hawaii, a place called Gentle World, and it turned out to be the people that put out the first vegan cookbook. The cookbook for people who love animals, it was called, and they published it right out of the sanctuary there. And I found out too that they actually the owners of the commune, they were from a town that was 45 minutes north of where I lived in Florida.
Way.
Yeah.
What island is this?
Big Island. This is the
Okay.
Big Island, and it's in a town called Kapa'au, and it's up in the northern region.
Oh,
Which
Kapa'a, yeah.
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 Up in the
north.
Kohala.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I stayed. They allow everybody to stay 1 week there, maybe longer. So I stayed my week and had some really good, deep conversations and learned about their history and how they've been doing activism for a long time, because they're all like in their 70s and 80s. You know, they went vegan before the word vegan even existed.
Yeah.
And they had a vegan restaurant before that over on Maui, but they closed it down so they could open up the Vegan Commune Education Center. And then they have a seasonal place in the northern part of New Zealand that's 450 acres called Shangri-La, where they also people can also go there. And so I stayed there for the week, and then they called some friends of theirs down in Kona, which is about an hour away on the same island, and asked them if I could help out at their bed and breakfast. And they said they had to see. They weren't sure if they needed my help just right away, but then they said yeah. And so I went down to stay with them. They also had a vegan cafe called Evolution's Cafe.
Huh.
And so they had the bed and breakfast and they had the cafe, and I stayed with them the remainder of I stayed for 5 months.
Wow, holy mackerel. And Kona.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's hotter there.
Yeah,
than it is up north. But
beautiful though.
Wow.
And
5 months.
5 months, and I did light landscaping on the property, helped clean some of the guest rooms, and helped out at the cafe a little bit.
Yeah.
And met so many amazing people there, and met other people, because there was other workawayers that went through that website, there's another website called Workaway. There's Woofing, and then there was Workaway. Workaway is the same as Woofing, except for it could be a bed and breakfast. It could be
not a farm.
Right, exactly. And so I met people from England, from Poland, up at Gentle World, people from Italy, Australia, all over the world. And we all hung out together, and it was incredible.
So fast forward, you come back from Hawaii,
right?
And at some point you decide, okay, I'm going to see my friend.
I got a job at the school when I came back. Before that I was working at a flower shop.
Okay.
But he just on whim decided to come out to California, and he said the pay is better out here, and he said, nothing's happening in Florida, so he's like, why don't you come out here? I was like,
You sold the Sonata, bought the van, and you had to outfit it. I mean, you had to, you got your bed, there's the spring thingy in there.
Yeah.
Right?
I put a cooler in there.
Like an ice cooler or a plug-in?
Ice cooler.
Okay.
I mean, which I hardly ever use, because I just eat, like right now I eat mostly like prepackaged, pre-cooked rice and stuff like that.
How do you heat it up?
Huh? I don't. I've always liked cold foods.
Oh, okay.
I've never had a problem with cold foods.
Okay.
I mean, I can heat it up at like a convenience store or something like that.
Okay, but you don't have a microwave or anything in your van?
I can find no.
Okay.
I don't have any.
But you get resourceful. If you need it, you know that there's a convenience store that has a microwave in there, and you could use that.
Yeah. And
so what are some of the things you've learned or had to, or I mean, some of the positives or negatives of van life?
Well,
I mean, you could probably write a book on this.
The main thing that I've noticed is that people's perception of it, is, people who are living in their homes mostly see, or walking on the street, they see it as weird. And so that's been an issue. I tried to park, because I didn't know where to park at first. I would park at the gym.
Yeah.
In the gym parking lot, but the gym parking lot.
You mean like a 24-hour gym?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could be a little bit the area that I was in, it could be a little bit scary at night.
Yeah.
You know, maybe drug deals going on and things like that, or at least very loud things going on that you don't know what's going on.
Right.
So safety comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, just, otherwise, I mean, like, I don't mind sleeping in the van. I like it. I actually get a better sleep than I used to at home.
Yeah.
I like hanging out in the back, reading books, listening to music. I have plenty. It gets me connected with doing real things.
How do you get power for the music and the lights so you can read and everything?
I have an MP3 player. I can charge it at the library. Lights. Okay. I have a battery-operated light that connects to the top of the van.
Solar panels? Do you have solar
the ceiling? No.
No. Okay.
No solar panels. I'm very rough. Not roughing it. I don't like to say roughing it because I'm not roughing it. I don't feel like I'm roughing it. It depends on how much you really need.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. It's
right.
like, what are you okay with letting go of?
Yeah.
I do have a portable toilet.
Okay, so there's a good question. Yeah. So
right. And I only use that in case of emergencies. I can go in stores, you know, etc. Go use the restroom. But in case of an emergency, I have a bucket with a biodegradable bag.
Yeah.
That I can use to go to the bathroom, you know, and I have some cat litter that I can cover that up.
Oh, right. Perfect.
You know, kills the odor and everything like that. And so, and it has a lid. I bought a lid for the bucket, you know, and so just close the lid. You don't smell it anymore.
Perfect.
It's good to go.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, most people would think that's really disgusting and horrible, but you know, again, it comes down to, you know, are you a person that likes to rough it and likes to go camping? And, you know, could you be that person in a van?
Right.
You know,
right.
I like that. I would live in a freaking teepee if I had the chance.
Yeah.
In the middle of the forest, and I would enjoy it even more so. You know, and I'd go foraging for berries if I was in an area with berries, and I'd eat edible weeds, you know, and things like that. I discovered 6 different edible weeds out of my backyard when I was in Florida.
Really?
And yet they got people spraying Roundup on their, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
What Roundup does is it kills it has a chemical in it called glyphosate, and what that does is it kills all organic matter. So, yeah, it's killing the weeds.
Everything else, animals,
it's
little bugs.
You know what it is? It's chemo for your lawn.
Oh.
And that's going down into, if it's in Florida, it's going into the watershed. It's going into the aquifer, down into the water. And people just spraying it on their, you know, because they see the commercials saying they have to get rid of their dandelions. Meanwhile, they're selling dandelions at Sprouts and Whole Foods, you know, for $2 a bunch.
Yeah.
Why? So, it's bad in your own front yard, but, yeah, I'll buy it at
It's
Whole
a dichotomy.
Foods. Yeah.
When there's in LA in particular in the last couple years, there's been more I won't say van life, but motorhome life.
Yeah.
I would say that what you're doing is different than a motorhome. And do you ever connect with other people that are either in motorhomes or other van lifers, or is there a whole subculture of people doing this off the grid in LA?
There is a lot of people doing this, but I don't know whether I've talked to a few people. I talked to a few people living in there, also who have vans, you know, like Volkswagen buses and stuff like that.
Like the Westfalia, like the camper type.
Yeah, well, like just like the
regular old classic,
60s style Volkswagen Beetle. I haven't really connected with the people in the RVs because I do notice that they usually have a lot of trash.
So it's all different. It's like a. So there's a difference.
I would say so. I would say the people living in like the more their vehicles. Yeah, some people I've seen in their vehicles, they have a lot of trash in their vehicles, and it's not. But I could say that about people that I know that live in houses and their cars.
That's true.
Their cars are trash.
But you have a different perspective.
Right.
So you kind of have to make assessments based on what you see. Is this someone that I want to approach or talk to, or
right?
I
have talked to one of them through somebody that I know at
Mm-hmm.
work that's also kind of doing the van life temporarily. Like she goes in between. Sometimes she's at her mom's house, and other times she's in a vehicle. And then she introduced me to one of the people that lives in an RV,
Okay.
and seemed like really nice guy. But mostly, you got to be careful with who you talk to out
Right.
there. I would openly talk to anybody. I would have no problem with it. I want to see community,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd rather do it in a more safe setting, like a community garden, which I'd like to get going
Right.
in this area. And
Okay.
so the first thing I knew that I had to do when I got here was I had to establish some kind of community. So I got involved with the activism people, and I started doing demonstrations with
Mm-hmm.
them. And so that was one way I was able to socialize. So then I went to a library, and upstairs they were having what was called a produce exchange, where people grow their own food at home. They bring it, they put it on a table, and they basically say, "Take what you want."
Right.
And then they had a seminar right after that, and they had chairs set up, and we learned about native plant species and native insect species in California, or in this area in
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles. And so I asked, "Is there a community garden that I can go volunteer at?" To the speaker, and she said, "Yeah, there's this place called Kindred Spirits and Care Farm." And so I emailed the organizer, Karen, and I went to go volunteer there, and I was just amazed that it was a vegan farm where they were teaching these high schoolers how to grow their own food. Because I was interested in permaculture even when I was back in Florida. I started growing a garden in my backyard,
Hmm.
and I follow the philosophy of there's an organic farmer. He's a Japanese farmer. His name's Masanobu Fukuoka, and he has a book called The One Straw Revolution. And he found that anywhere there's some kind of cover crop, you can pretty much grow anywhere. So he was had a goal to um, bring like a fruit forest and to deserts to take
Wow.
places. Yeah, and he
Huh.
had a concept that actually worked,
Wow.
and it's slowly starting to gain traction
Huh.
now. And Karen knew about Masanobu Fukuoka, and I
Karen
thought
is.
she's the one who runs Kindred Spirits Care
Okay.
Farm,
Okay.
and that's in Reseda. And so I had instantly had a connection with her, being that she's vegan, she's into the permaculture just like I was, and she was wanting to do good things in the community,
Yeah.
you know. And I thought that was awesome because I'd seen another documentary called Urban Roots, where when the what was that called? Where the economy collapsed and everything. What is that called? The recession. When the recession happened around 2008, and everybody started vacating out of Detroit, and so there was all these foreclosed homes and stuff like that, and it became almost like a no man's land, like whoever stayed behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started growing community gardens on all these different plots of land,
Hmm.
and they were able to get like the homeless involved and get everybody in the community involved, and they were able to restore their community
Wow.
when the government and everybody was turning a blind
Right.
eye,
Right.
and they're like, well, if they're not regulating this land use right now, and we can build wherever we want and put gardens wherever we want, let's do it. And
Yeah.
they started doing it, and I see the same possibility here for
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
And so that's like my thing. I wanted to establish. I thought, what can I do here? What can I do to make wherever I go better?
Yeah.
And I did that in Hawaii. That's why I liked helping out in Hawaii too. I wanted to do things to help out people. That's what I'm all about.
What's been the hardest part about doing this? Van life in particular.
Honestly,
Or most surprising or crazy
people's
story.
people's perception parked outside of people's residential homes. Like granted, I did stay in the same area for like several months, I would just park out this because it was convenient. There was the library, and there was other restaurants nearby.
Mm-hmm.
It was just convenient where I was located to have access to, being close to what I needed.
Well, speaking what you need, so you have a library. What about healthcare? How do you, if you have you had to use?
I have no. Well, I mean, a lot of that I credit to. I don't take any medications.
Okay.
When I went vegan, pretty much yeah, like all my health problems went away.
If you need to see a doctor, what do you do?
That's one of the things that is always in the back of my mind.
Okay,
I haven't had health care even when I was in Florida. It was hard in order to get health insurance, you had to have a full-time job.
Yeah.
I got it. I had it through the school system.
But you're at Sprouts right now working, right?
Right.
But it's part-time?
Yeah, it's part-time.
So you don't get benefits?
No,
Okay.
not right now. It's I work part-time. I still get a good amount of hours in my department because it's just me and my manager in the bulk department. And so that allows me to get more hours than maybe another department.
The bulk department. Is that coffee too?
Yep, coffee.
Which Sprouts?
On Topanga and
Oh, okay. All
Topanga and Ventura.
Okay.
Yeah, and
That's a good hike from here, actually.
yeah, it's a half-hour drive. It's not too bad.
Okay.
And I work about 32 hours a week, something like that.
Yeah.
That's
a good amount.
Yeah, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I work 5 days a week.
Have you been down to Topanga below?
Yeah.
So, because that is sort of the original nomad kind of territory.
That's the
it
vibe.
Still kind of is.
Yeah.
But I guess it's now probably off limits to some degree, or is it attractive for someone in van life? Is that an attractive area, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I went over there because people kept telling me, oh, you got to check out Topanga, and stuff, and so I went over there. I haven't ventured to actually stay over there overnight or anything, but I totally went over and just walked the main highway. I pulled over and just walked and saw how forested and beautiful it was, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the general vibe of the people there and how they would view somebody living in their van. Yeah. To me, it's people coming from, they've done well for themselves and now they can live up in those hills. Yeah. I don't know if that's the case, but I know that's not exactly a low income area at all.
It kind of goes back and forth, but. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. What about a shower? What do you do?
Gym.
Yeah. So you have gym membership?
Mm-hmm. Pay.
That's why you were parking at the gym.
Yeah. Go to Starbucks to use my computer at night when I was. Because
so you have a laptop.
Yep.
And you have Facebook. You communicate social media.
I'm not on Facebook anymore because I got addicted to it. I didn't like being.
That's better not to be.
And I like real interaction like this better.
Yeah.
I want to see more people doing this. I want to see people coming out and openly talking about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've noticed that when people, let's say it's a disaster situation or something like that. Somebody's trapped in rubble. You're not going, are you Republican? Are you Muslim? Are you whatever? Mm-hmm. You just go help the person.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And I think we've created all these, again, dichotomies in our brain that have been programmed into us, and that's why we have this, view of people living in their cars as weird. Well, and it's also because it's a reputation thing. There's people that are living in their vehicles that are totally trashing the area, that are totally doing drugs.
Do you see that?
I do.
Does it bother you?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I want to help those people. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is I want to help them. But can you help them? Because some of them are literally mentally ill, and stuff.
What percent do you think are?
A good majority. Yeah, I would say maybe I'd say about 70% of
That's
them.
A lot. That's pretty high.
Because you see it all the time. You just go to a Starbucks, and I know that everybody in the city has seen it, at people talking to themselves, right? And making loud outbursts in the middle, and it's
Do you see a solution for you?
Yeah.
Do you see a solution, or does there not need to be a solution? Are you the solution right now?
You are. Everybody is. There's a saying. The power of one, and it's so true, because I've got ideas. I've got, like, for one, it comes down to people just needing to do this. They need to just sit down and talk, and they'll realize that they're not much different from each other, but not just that. Like, I mean, again, it's a generational thing. It's a generational gap, because I'm sure you remember growing up, maybe, like, people used to have block parties on their,
I know we did.
right?
Yeah, 4th of July, you have fireworks, block party, people bring food. That does not happen anymore.
Neighbors used to be outside.
Yeah, no. Kick the can with all the neighborhood
I'm sure
kids.
they were trading recipes. I'm sure that they were doing,
probably.
kids were playing. The kids were playing with each other. Stuff. There was an exchange. An exchange of ideas, of chivalry, of everything. And I see that as totally possible now. People need to realize they can grow food in their front and backyard, for one, that they don't need to put Roundup on their lawn, and they're just driving all the way to the grocery store to get something that's been shipped to the grocery store thousands of miles, that does not, you know the difference between a real tomato and one that you've had at the store that has, like, no taste at all. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's a reason for that, because
I love real fresh. Good tomatoes.
Right, and you can taste fresh, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you go to a restaurant.
You actually taste it.
Right, yeah. Like, that's why, like, that's another thing. Where's all the mom and pop places? They're all being replaced by corporate places. And the quality goes down. So now you come in and it's just like, oh, yeah, have a seat, whatever, take your order. Whereas before it was like, hey, like, call you by your first name. How you doing today? How you been? What can I get for you?
Hey, Shawn, what's up?
We got this new item on the menu. You got to try it out. It was an exchange. It was beautiful.
I think there's more of those coming back.
Yeah, I hope so.
I really do.
But it comes with people not feeding the corporate machines and getting back to creating small business and stuff, because and getting off their phone, and just this. It's so simple. It's just coming out and interacting.
Where do you want to be in 5 years? 5 years from now, let's say we have another conversation.
That's you can't plan for 5. You couldn't
6 months.
Because you know why?
Tomorrow.
No, because check this out, because
no, that's fair.
No, seriously though, freaking, like, anything can happen right now. A meteor could hit us while we're sitting.
I know,
you know what I mean? Like, anything can happen. You could get a flat tire and it just changes the whole course. I stay
music
present,
deal.
right? Well, yeah, I want to compose music.
So let's say you had $1 million. You get a music deal, you get $1 million, you got $1 million cash.
Right.
You're still doing van life. What would you do with that $1 million?
I'd want to create a center for getting people off the streets.
Would you stay in your van?
That's a good question. Yeah, I would probably just upgrade it.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I'd upgrade it
okay.
enough, where. But I don't know, because right now it's really comfortable.
Yeah.
It really is. I've gotten used to the simple things so much so that I really just.
You can dream a little. That's okay.
I miss. You know what the hardest part of van life is, and probably anybody can vouch for this, living in their car, is the lack of being able to be social with people because of the stigma. That's the hardest part. It really is.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the social stigma, because think about it. Like, what if a whole bunch of people started doing it, and everybody just started doing
a block party.
Right. All of a sudden, you got your block party. You got a community, and then everybody in that community is going, I ain't going back to that house again. You know what I mean? Right?
Then you start sharing, and you're sharing the vegetables, and I got this recipe for
come volunteer
cold
at
rice,
this place.
right?
Come volunteer at this place. Let's do good things. Let's do all good things. Let's do music out in the street.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
are there other people at that level, van lifers, that at your level, like how many you're you know what I'm
because
saying?
I chose it. You know what I
You
mean?
chose it,
Yeah.
and you chose it with a conscientious effort.
Right. Right.
Are there other? What about your bandmate? Is he at your same genre kind of?
He's not. Well, he's not at the same conscious level.
Okay.
He's living off of Chef Boyardee, Kansas Chef Boyardee. He's not eating healthy.
Okay.
You know, because of that, his health can suffer every once in a while. It's the full package.
Do people come to you with, "Hey, how do I do this?"
Mm,
Or like, have you given advice?
They've
to people?
asked me how I've done it.
How you do it?
You know,
Not how can I do it?
No, not how can I do it, but you know, they've be curious like how I've done it, like and everything like that. But yeah, I'd like to see more people doing it, honestly, because it and then you could do you could do road trips with everybody. I mean, think how much fun it could be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really could be, but you know,
is marriage and kids where things have to change? Have you ever thought about that?
No, because I've been single my whole life, and by
But
choice.
if you got married, it would, the dynamic.
Yeah, because now you're well, it depends on what that person brings.
Yeah.
You know, it depends on what kind of mentality that person brings. You know, to it too.
Yeah.
You know, I would say if they're a progressive person, minimalist, then it could work out very nicely.
Yeah. Then you'd upgrade the van.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, my van, there's not much room. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that does change.
It brings a second income also, and if they're working, you know.
You're right. You're right.
You know, but it does change.
But the responsibility that like for me, I have 3 kids and I'm married. Right. So making that transition from single to married, my responsibilities changed, and I had to think differently.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it was simpler.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's a little more complicated now.
That's why I do it single.
Actually, it's a lot more complicated now.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you know, so I couldn't do that.
And you got another life with you then. It becomes a whole different thing because you got another actual life with you that you got to be concerned about at that point. Yeah. When it's just you just got to worry about yourself as far as like your situation.
Total freedom.
Yeah, it is total freedom, you know?
But you have a job.
Yeah.
Which gives you a lot more total freedom.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't, it would really it would suck.
But it allows me because I'm living in my van, I can save up money where I can use that to pursue my dream, which is to compose music for film. You know what I mean? And
do you do it on your computer at all?
A little bit, but I like going to a producer that I met, because it's a collaboration, and you get a different perspective. And I like working with people. I see so many people try to do everything themselves, and I'm like, why? You're surrounded by billions of people. Why are you trying to do everything yourself? You know, when you have all these other people that can help you. Yeah. Unless you're really unless you're a virtuoso at what you do, you kind of need some help sometimes, you know, and you shouldn't be afraid to reach out to it. And I always say, go to the source. You know what I mean? Don't be confused by something. If you have a question, like kind of going back to Hawaii, right? I want to be a music composer. So I looked up music studios. I just wanted to see what kind of music recording studios were in the area. I found a post-production studio in Kona.
In Kona.
And they had a green screen, and they had a multi-million-dollar recording studio room. And I said, by any chance, do you have anybody that could possibly be a mentor to me? Because a lot of people need mentors right now. And I don't particularly. I have a piano piece that to me sounds like could be in some kind of film. Teachers had told me when I was in college that they could see it being cinematic in a film. Yeah. And but I'm not classically trained. I am not one of these people that have been classically trained since I was a kid. Yeah. So where does that leave me? What route do I take if I'm not a professional composer? I'm not scoring, I'm not writing out sheet music and everything, but I have something that sounds like it could be in something. Yeah. Is it worth pursuing?
What happened?
And so they said, yeah, we have two composers. We have one right here. So I met him. I talked to him first. He never followed up with me, but the other one did follow up with me.
No way.
And
just because you asked, and so that created this.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Sometimes
is he here in LA?
Now he is.
Now he is.
Moved his family, and now he's in Glendale.
No way.
Yeah. And
just next door.
Yeah, and I'll be going there tomorrow to go see him. Yeah, work on my piano.
Wow, that's serendipity, man.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Hey, so I thought about something. Your mom and your dad. Who's more nervous?
My mom.
And so, but your dad is chill.
Yeah.
You stay in touch with him?
Yeah, I call him every single day.
No.
Every single day.
Cell phone?
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes I've done one video conference thing with them, on my computer, but yeah, cell phone every day.
No.
And
awesome.
My mom's got a dog grooming business that she runs from home.
Yeah.
She was a data entry worker for years, working in cubicles. She got tired of that, and she finally she didn't know what she wanted. She finally found out what she wanted when she was in her 50s. And I was working with. She knew she wanted to do something with hair, but she didn't like cutting people's hair and dealing with people.
There you go. Adam, see, it runs in the family.
Yeah, and so she went to a dog grooming school and got her certificate and started her own business. And she's been working from home.
Fantastic.
And my dad was a welder, and I'm sure you've seen those things called pods, portable on-demand storage.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, he used to build those.
No way.
Yeah, he used to weld the frames.
Huh.
And he did that for 10 years, and then he went to go work at a hospital as a transporter, and he did that till he retired. Now he's retired.
Okay.
And now he helps my mom create her vision of how she wants the house to look, and stuff like that.
Do they have any plans of coming out here to visit you?
Yeah, maybe possibly next summer or something like that.
Do they know California?
No.
Okay.
Well, my dad was here when he was a kid, and I don't think my mom's ever been out here.
And I asked you about brothers and sisters. You don't
No brothers and
have
sisters.
no brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Cousins?
Yeah.
Do they stay in touch?
No, I haven't talked to my cousins in a long time. But my cousin Valerie, she lives down in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A couple hours away.
Yeah, so I might go see her someday
Cool.
down there. Yeah. But no other immediate family in California.
And you like California so far? It's been less than a year.
I like that it's multicultural.
Okay.
And I've met many great people.
But
but there's the city. There's the city that's ignoring the homeless problem. There's the rat race mentality of everybody's trying to get everywhere fast, and everybody's focused on the career so much so that they don't typically take the time to reflect and relax a little bit and just enjoy themselves, and that I would say that's the only really bad part about it. I would say otherwise, and the traffic sucks, but that's anywhere. I mean, there's bad traffic in Tampa back in Florida, and honestly, I think I actually get around a little bit quicker here than I did back there.
Did LA surprise you when you got here? Were there misconceptions, or you kind of knew from your friend and what to expect?
I knew what to expect.
Okay.
I knew that it was going to be a metropolis, for one. I knew that there was going to be, a lot of people that, the Hollywood type people that, they're wearing their shades. And let me talk to my agent.
There's a few of those.
You see that, especially working where I work. You see people come in like that. And, but I don't let it faze me because I know that it's just a product of their environment. You take that person and you put them in a rural farm country area where it's laid back, they're going to start to chill out after a while. Yeah. They're going to start to be like, I like this, Or they're going to hate it because they're so used to the city life.
One or the other, but you don't know until you try. Right. You mentioned you read. What was the last book you read, or what book are you reading now, one or the other?
I'm reading a memoir by that guitarist that I like, Joe Satriani, and it's talking about him, and he's a guitar virtuoso.
Okay.
And it talks about how he developed a style that was unlike anybody else's style, but he had to kind of pay his dues first playing in other bands, and through playing in those other bands, people started noticing his technique, and he made connections through the other bands and started making his own albums. But he did it way before they had a lot of the technology. He did this back in the 80s.
It was analog.
You know, and so he was analog, cutting tape, cutting pasty tape, and using all kinds of different things that, you know, it makes it a lot more, but things that make it harder also make it more where you appreciate things. And that's another beautiful thing about van life. You start to appreciate things more because you have to work harder at it. If you have everything handed to you but in your house, and you just go back to that one house all the time, every day, you get in a rut. And then eventually you're just like, I don't know what to do. I got to pay rent. You know, I got to do the laundry. I got
laundry. How do you do laundry?
I go to coin laundry.
Okay.
Yeah, coin
makes
laundry.
sense.
Yeah.
Of
So
course.
that's easy enough. You know?
What else would you do? Yeah.
And then, but you like, okay, like any other responsibilities, cleaning the house. You got to clean the house. I got a portable vacuum that runs for a long time. It's a really good portable vacuum.
Kind of surprises you how long it runs.
Yeah, and I charge that at the library or at work. And
what's your favorite library in LA?
Oh, without a doubt, the Northridge, right? Yeah, right over here, Northridge Library.
On Devonshire?
Huh? On
or is it Nordhoff?
Nordhoff and Reseda. Because, it's close to Reseda. It's on Nordhoff. Because I like the lighting. I'm a very big person. Like, I walk in and I like the lighting. And that's honestly like the biggest thing, and selection of books, obviously, and stuff like that. But
and they have computers and you outlets you can charge. And...
Yeah, and I've been told that the Canoga Park Library has really crappy Wi-Fi, so I don't go there.
The word's out. Are you surprised that LA has decent libraries? Or you expect it?
No, because it's a metropolis, so you have lots of access to lots of information. I go to CSUN Library. I like CSUN Library too. I go there every morning and go upstairs to the music department and read different books. Like right now, I'm also reading another book in the library there by a bass player named Jaco Pastorius, and he was in a progressive rock band called Weather Report back in the 70s. Yeah. And so I've been reading his biography.
Okay.
And then I read about Led Zeppelin. I read about the Allman Brothers. Those are like the bands that influenced me. I like the old school stuff.
That is old school.
Yeah, but then
for me.
But I'm wide range. Like I grew up with metal. Like started with Metallica, just got heavier and heavier. I got into the most extreme death metal. But then I like.
What's the most extreme death metal you've listened to?
Was
it from America or North Europe?
Most extreme of all, because there's a lot of them. It's hard to say. I really like the band. I mean, there's probably the most extreme band that is a band called. It's actually industrial death metal, and it's the band's called Berserker, and it's actually, I think. Yeah, it's like almost like a one-man band, I think, too.
Oh, really?
Actually. But it's really good. He does really good production quality, but it's insane. It's crazy.
Really? Yeah, my son was into the metal, death metal, and it can get pretty. There's quite a culture around that.
But the people at the concerts are amazing.
Because he was 16, and I'm like, you can go, but I'm taking you.
Yeah,
I went to a lot of death metal. But you're right, they're the nicest
people. They're safer
people.
at a death metal concert than they are at a Britney Spears concert.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
The mosh pit, different story, but until they get there,
right,
they're just so
Even
chill.
in the mosh pit, you have a mosh pit etiquette.
They take care of you.
Right, you hit
you
fall on the floor. You have 10 hands grabbing on you and picking you up,
throwing you up.
Right. Yeah. Imagine that. The beauty in that, the trust in that.
Yeah.
That you can depend on all those people around you. Yeah. That if you fall on the ground, all those people are going to help you back up and say, "Are you okay?" Yeah. There's a community. There's real community at a metal show.
Yeah.
Oh, I go to concerts in Florida, and when I walked in, like so many people knew me because we all went to the same shows, you know.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a band jacket?
No, I just wear t-shirts, band t-shirts. Okay. I'm wearing this is my favorite band.
ARB?
Yes, but it's John Anderson from Yes, Well, they're all from Yes. So you got John Anderson. It's ARW.
Oh, W. Okay.
Yeah, or let's see, Anderson. Yeah, Anderson, Raven, Wakeman. So you had Rick Wakeman, who was on the original Yes albums, and they got Trevor Rabin. He was on. Yeah, you probably heard that song, "Owner of a Lonely Heart."
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, he's the one that he was the guitar player on that album.
1983.
Yeah, that was the album was called 90125.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And that's the album that my uncle introduced me to at first, and then he got me into like the deeper in their catalog, and then I was like, worship this band, you know. And then I like classical. I always had a melody in my head with classical for the composer Prokofiev. He's from Russia, and the there's a piece called Peter and the Wolf, and the main character's theme always stood out for me. And I always had the melody in my head, so I asked like, I think it was my teacher in middle school in the music class. I'm like, "What is this melody?" And I like sang it to her. She's like, "Oh, that's Peter and the Wolf by Prokofiev." And from that point on, I started getting into classical music. You know, and so I've always been well rounded. Then I got into jazz. I used to go to like jazz clubs in Florida, and they had this one called Musicology where it went from 9 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning, and it would be the best of the best jazz players in the area.
Wow. Where was that? In
Florida. I don't know if they're doing the musicology place moved. I don't know if they opened back up, but it was awesome because it was all the best of the best in the area, and they'd all meet up for that gig, and they'd be all improvising and feeding off each other, and it was just so awesome.
That's like what you'd see in a movie or something.
Yeah, but it was intimate. There was only like maybe like I don't know, like 20 chairs or something like that, and everybody just be watching them just like
that's pure
grooving,
pure raw.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know if his batteries are still going. This has been the longest interview ever, which is fantastic. But I'm going to ask you just a couple rapid fires.
Sure.
And then a final question.
Okay.
What's your favorite candy?
Oh.
Do you eat candy?
I can eat vegan candy. Yeah, you can find a vegan version of any candy.
Okay.
I probably like an almond joy type of style, like coconut. Like chocolate. Yeah.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
It has to be dark chocolate because I can't eat the animal products. You know.
Oh, because dark chocolate doesn't have any milk?
Right, it's from the cacao bean. That's where the chocolate comes from. That's where chocolate actually comes from.
Do you actually like dark chocolate anyhow? Better than?
Yeah. When I was younger, I liked milk chocolate better, but now I like dark chocolate better because your taste buds acclimate.
Yeah, you're right.
They change.
I love dark chocolate. But Almond Joy, is that milk or dark? Because Mounds is...
Yeah, well, I'd have to look for a vegan version of it, but I have found vegan versions of it before.
Okay, so that's cool. Almond Joy, a vegan version of Almond Joy.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie? Non-documentary. Because I know you've already mentioned like 5 documentaries. What about a movie or actor or actress?
I like Jurassic Park and stuff like that. And
the original one, the first one.
Yeah, original one. I love
that's a classic.
I love the score in it by John Williams. It's so good. That's like one of my influences when it comes to
John Williams. That guy has his footprint on everything.
Yeah. Other movies,
him and Danny Elfman.
Yeah. And then I like comedies. I like mostly animated movies now because I noticed that a lot of the movies now are the same narrative almost. It's almost the same. Like, there's nothing new coming out really anymore. I like again, I always kind of go towards the old school.
Okay, so what cartoon animated, sorry, not cartoon, but what would be an animated?
I like the show Rick and Morty. It's really funny. It's like Back to the Future, only like as if it was kind of on drugs, even though I don't do drugs.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Oh, you gotta watch it. Rick and Morty's just like, it's hilarious.
It's cartoon.
Yeah.
Animated.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And
Rick and Morty.
Yeah, and then I liked all the ones I grew up with: Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy, and stuff like that.
I was a little older at that point.
Yeah.
I remember Ren and Stimpy as being a little cutting edge, but I never.
Yeah. But,
Simpsons is my.
I love Simpsons.
That's my flavor.
And then let's see.
And the regular show. For some reason, I like the regular show.
Yeah, regular show's good too. Yeah, I just like anything. I like anything like kind of goofy, where people don't like, or characters or people don't take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why can't we just have fun? You know, and we totally can. And it's just only what we've put in our minds that
You're
puts a
right.
block on that. It really is.
Okay, final question.
Okay.
You've got 30,000 people out there. Actually, it's 50,000. So don't get nervous. 50,000 people, and you're going to give them advice. Everyday living advice.
Do good things. Pursue your dreams. Get involved and try to get something in your community going. That's where everything you could ever want, you're gonna find, because every resource that you don't have, everybody else has around you. You just have to collaborate and make it happen. If you're living in your vehicle, try to just get it again. Everything's community. You know what I mean? It takes a village. It takes a village to get anything really going, because you're not going to be able to do everything yourself. You're just not going to be able to. But mostly just be kind. Be kind, do good things, go vegan. Best thing you can do for the planet, for yourself. And come check out Kindred Spirits Care Farm if you're in the area. It's a wonderful place, or any other sanctuary by you, because before you can have peace, you have to take murder off your plate. You can't have peace with death on your plate. And that comes down to acknowledging all beings around you, even non-sentient beings. A tree gives you oxygen. Your car takes it away. What do you want more? You want the tree. So keep that in mind. Different perspectives. It's always about different perspectives.
Thank you, Shawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And again, this is John Hawkins. Thank you for watching and listening. And this has been another edition of People We See at the Employees Club of California.